I'm a little concerned as well, actually. I'm actually more concerned than I am bullish about the Clarity Act.
This is Soul Brothers with Simon and Eno, where it is our job to throw you into the Solana rabbit hole and show you around in our exciting ecosystem.
Our mission is to take you on the latest and greatest so that you never run out of fun things to talk about. Simon, it's a big week.
Big week, huge week, I want to say. There's a lot of news on the agenda today that we can cover when it comes to Solami, our favorite L1 and the one and only you really need. And we're going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about new jobs on Solana. We're going to talk about ETFs. We're going to talk about ICOs. Are ICOs back? And we're also going to talk about cash tax, whatever the fuck that is. But there has been some announcements from official accounts, including X, about a new thing they're launching. So that is definitely something that deserves a deep dive. But what deserves even more deep dives is the upcoming Clarity Act. So all that is going to be part of today's agenda. Where do you want to start, my friend?
Oh, of course, we're going to start with Solana by the numbers, where we detail the most bullish numbers about the Solana ecosystem. And of course, the first thing that we want to talk about is jobs on Solana. So if you go over to jobs.solana.com, our friend Paul, who is the head recruiter over at Solana Foundation, he helps people navigate jobs across the entire ecosystem. He says there's over how many jobs, Simon? Over 500. That's nuts.
Damn. There's a lot of demand. I feel like we need people. Where's everyone?
Yeah. Do you feel like you have a hard time hiring sometimes?
Yeah, that's the hardest part for any entrepreneur. It's one of the biggest challenges you have as a founder is to hire, because it's not like you can go shopping and you pick someone up and you just take him or her. It's very strategic. You have to, because you don't want to work with anyone, right? You want to have the creme de la creme for your business and for your endeavor. As a good founder, you have very high standards. And it's tough to find these people because they're really, really good people. They are either already working for themselves or they're working for someone else. So you gotta, it's tough. It's tough.
I mean, how bullish is it that we have someone who works at Solana Foundation whose literal job is just to make sure that other, projects on Solana get top tier talent?
Yeah, that's actually useful. I mean, we need an HR department, right, for Solana companies. And yeah, so jobs.solana.com is actually a great job board for everyone that wants to find a job. And if you need a better intro to something, you can also talk to the Soul Brothers, because we have also direct lines to teams like Super Team Talent that can also hook you up and facilitate the job for you, the job of getting a job, basically.
Yeah. Absolutely. Not only are job positions available, but there are also other really bullish numbers on Solana. So another one that we'd like to discuss is historic ETF flows. And this week, we had $41 million in net inflows, which brings total net inflows to over $800 million into Solana. This is all coming from off-chain sources. That's huge. But at the same time, we've seen, outflows from BTC as well as Ethereum ETFs. So that's quite interesting. Out of all the ETF types, it seems like Solana is the only one with inflows. What does that tell you, Simon?
Well, I mean, I'm biased here, but obviously, okay. Let me try to give an objective analysis of the situation. I think the objective analysis is that it's new. Solana is kind of new for TradFi right now still, and for institutions. And we come with a very strong thesis that everyone gets. Like, you saw that clip last time. Stupid question. You were with me here. You remember that clip last time when we talked about the new Morgan Stanley ETF that just launched for Solana. And there was a lady from Morgan Stanley, I suppose, that talked about this on CNBC. And she was all about tokenization here and RWAs there and tokenization here. And that happens on Solana now. So I think that thesis is trickling through the offices, and it is a very good sales pitch for everyone. We're building financial markets 2.0. It's called internet capital markets. That term has been coined by Solana, and this is happening on Solana. And we have proof already for it. We have companies that are doing it. We're pretty much tokenizing everything from uranium over commodities to fucking watches. Everything I said right now is being tokenized on Solana, and you can build a narrative around it very easily. And ETFs need that they're narrative vehicles, right? They're narrative driven because they are for people that don't really want to do the digging. They just want to get exposure real quick. And that includes retail and asset managers alike. Even the asset managers don't, give a shit about how Solana works as a blockchain, right? They also don't give a shit about how the hardware in your phones is being made, but they still want exposure to semiconductor companies, right? But they don't know how they don't know about anything about the hardware and how a semiconductor is being built. But they get the narrative, right? There's going to be AI booms, there's going to be demand for chips, and that's why we're going to buy semiconductor businesses. Solana is essentially the same narrative, just for internet capital markets. So I think that's why we see so much inflows, and we're going to see much more this year. That's going to be a huge driver in institutional demand again for the asset.
Oh yeah. But off-chain international capital market, international lol. Off-chain inflows into internet capital markets are not the only source of revenue. Of course, not revenue. Excuse me, sauce. I'm really the sauce of revenue. That isn't the only source of capital formation. Of course, we also have on-chain methods, and our favorite on-chain method, or at least the one that I'm paying the most attention to, is MetaDAO. So over the weekend, MetaDAO had a ICO for Ranger Finance. Ranger Finance is a perps aggregator, so you can think of it as Jupiter, but for perpetuals. And they raised $86 million, Simon. Holy motherfucking shit! That is a lot of money.
They didn't raise 86 million.
Well, they got 86,000. They got 86 million in commitments, and how much did they actually take away?
Eight. So
yes,
but that's actually a very good point, because a lot of people have a misconception about this whole ICO on MetaDAO, right? You look at these projects. Ranger now raised 8 mil. They wanted to raise 6. Solomon raised 8 mil. They wanted to raise 2. We have Umbra. They also raised, I think, 3 mil, essentially 3.5. They wanted to raise 2. So these guys had overcommitments of 1,000+%, all of them, right? Like I remember Umbra, we had Crew on the show on Sol Brothers, and they were overcommitted by, $152 million, right, on the ICO. So here's the important part to get. These are not investments in the ICO. These are commitments to receive pro rata shares of the final amount, right? So if you see as an investor that the minimum raise is 6 mil, then you expect them to close at maybe maximum 10 mil, right? Everything else would be weird, would be a bit greedy. If you oversubscribe and then you're like, okay, we wanted minimum 6 and now we're taking 12, it's like, okay, but why do you need double, right? Like, why don't you check what you said is required, which is 6? So I think they can't, this is always a good, whenever someone raises on MetaDAO and you see, okay, the minimum is, 2 million, then slap another plus minus 2 mil, right, on it. Only plus, not minus, 2 mil on it. And that could be the final thing they raise. So the same happened here. So they will never accept 80 million or 100 million. That means as an investor, when you clip in the biggest wallet that invested here in Ranger, probably put in like $1 million or something. Yeah, I think it was more, by the way. And that whale, by the way, also invested a fairly big chunk in the other ICOs, same wallet. And he also made, I think, $300,000 P&L on Avicii, because if you clip in a very large amount of into the subscription and then it oversubscribed, you also get the bigger chunk of the pro rata shares, right, of the final amount, but you get a lot of your money back, the biggest chunk you get back, right? So that's why I say it's not an investment. It's not even a commitment, right? Because you're not. You know that you're going to get a lot of that money back that you're clipping in. It's just you're reserving the pro rata for the actual raise, right? So that you get a bigger chunk. Because if I invest $500 in the Solomon sale, right, or in the Ranger sale, I only get I can't do the math in my head, but I get a tiny percentage of the actual ICO amount, because I get pro rata on $500. The difference between 86 mil and 8 mil, how much they essentially raised, right? So that's why we see these playing out so well. And I did the same mistake initially when I saw the first ICOs happening on Meta. I was like, damn, where's $150 million coming from? Where's these people are investing that much in ICO? No, they're no one want, like, they're not going to give $150 million to a company. They're just betting on the pro rata shares.
I still think it's really impressive, though, that people are willing to theoretically commit that amount, because it just goes to show how much capital is actually available, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it's the liquidity is there, you know. And MetaDAO has smashed it out of the park. I actually have a tweet, something I wrote recently. I think that if we do have a chance at another unicorn runner of a token, I think that there's a non-zero probability it comes from MetaDAO's launchpad. Just based on the track record of what we've seen so far in terms of the quality of the projects that they're picking, as well as the rate and the speed at which they're doing it. It's very impressive. Millions and millions of dollars raised for top tier builders. It seems to be one of the default ways to raise capital on Solana now. I'm pretty proud and impressed by what both Profit and Colin have achieved.
Yeah, future key is a good concept. The execution is, well done as well. They're backed by credible investors like Colosseum are behind them and some others. So it's a innovative project and good, interesting solution to the ICO problem. And also it has a good track record already. Are there considerations when it comes to downsides? Sure. There's like a few things that are okay to criticize on MetaDAO. And the concept. And one of them is that you're saying top talent is being attracted to these launches. But also, I think there's a case, it doesn't have to be a rule, but top talent also likes to have control over the treasury and don't give it away to the market. That's just one point. So like really good founders with like 5 exits, and they did it all, they know everyone. They wouldn't launch a MetaDAO because they're like, okay, but then I can't control my treasury myself. I'm a founder. I should, I have the biggest balls in the room here. Like I want to control my treasury. Like these investors trust me. My VCs trust me. So they just call up their VCs, right? And they're like, I can get the money there. And I'm gonna, if I need to do something with my treasury and I need it in 5 minutes, I'll do it, right? I don't need the market to decide that. So I think, but there might be it's a different kind of company, really. I think we're creating a different kind of company with these MetaDAO companies, and they can work really well. But it's
remains to be seen, of course, in 2026 and onwards, how this concept of unruggable ICOs unfolds. But for now, very promising initial results. And now, Simon, of course, now that we've talked about Solana by the numbers, of course, the tech on Solana is good. So let's go through these really, really cool upgrades, or not upgrades, but things that we're seeing on Solana and Twitter, my friend.
Yes, sir. So the first one we got are smart cash tags, not crash tags. I always read crash tags when I go into it. They link tickers to smart contracts right on X. Nikita Beer, our favorite person of the week on crypto Twitter, the head of product at Twitter, announced the feature which will financialize Twitter or X. He says that X is the best source for financial news, and hundreds of billions of dollars are deployed based on things that are being said on Twitter, which is, it's true. This feature will ensure that prospective buyers are actually buying the right token that they intend to, which is a great feature considering how many scams are in crypto. So this helps you to stay safe out there. And you can see how it works on the screenshot. Basically, you just type in your token on Twitter, and then there's this little pop-up that pulls up that will display you the contract addresses even of these tokens. So you can make sure, okay, I'm talking about the right thing. I'm buying the right thing. Cool.
Yeah. And next up, Rain, a stablecoin company providing universal access to on-chain rails, just raised $250 million. Rain's announcement details a Series C raise at a $1.95 billion valuation led by Iconic Capital and joined by Sapphire Ventures, Dragonfly, and others, marking over $338 million in total funding and a 17x increase in valuation in just 10 months. Key growth metrics include a 30x growth in active cards, 38x growth in annualized payment volume to $3 billion. Holy shit. And partnerships with over 200 entities. Rain emphasizes seamless stablecoin integration for global enterprises. We're well on our way to making a tokenized programmable money mainstream.
Damn, they're powering a lot of the crypto debit cards where you can spend the crypto that you're earning from working in crypto, for example, on Super Team Earn, which is the best way to earn your first crypto. And right now, the platform offers an additional $2 million in funding to support the next generation of prediction market apps. And I'm talking about Kalchi, because they actually decided to put up grants on Super Team Earn for pro users, which is really cool. Successful applicants will get API access to hundreds of markets and liquidity, monetization with builder codes, and grant funding to work on your very own project. So if you want to build with Kalchi, then you should head over to earn.superteam.fun and check out the grant.
And last but not least, folks, just a little bit more bullish news on Solana. Solana is the home of tokenized stocks. We're starting the new year off right. DeFi Llama shows that Solana is now the home for on-chain equity, coming in first place with over $800 million in TVL. Ethereum is in second place with approximately $400 million in tokenized stocks, just about half that. Internet capital markets aren't only for on-chain capital formation, but are also a source of net new inflows for traditional companies as well. So Simon, doesn't really matter whether or not you're trying to raise for, a project with tokens using unruggable ICOs, or if you're trying to bring TradFi inflows into, on-chain inflows into TradFi assets like stocks, you can do it all here on Solana.
Very cool. I'm very bullish on this for 2026 as well. We're going to see much more liquidity on X stocks and Remora markets coming this year. Pretty sure. Cool.
Yeah.
Good stuff. What else is bullish for crypto,
Well, I don't know if this is bullish or not, but, a lot of people are talking about it, and it is the name of our podcast today. And so what we're going to be covering for our deep dive on today's podcast is, of course, the Clarity Act. The U.S. Senate will be voting on it in 2 days on December 15th. That is a Wednesday, American time, the Crypto Clarity Act. What do you know about, Simon? What can you tell us?
Did you say December?
January. Sorry. I meant to say January 15th. I apologize. Sorry. I'm still in 2025.
Living in the past, my friend. The Clarity Act. I think it is also called the Payment Stablecoin Act. And it's widely discussed these days. I think it is one of the items, one of the reasons why 2026 could be a good year. I think it can be a potential bullish signal because it regulates stablecoins, right? And we have seen a lot of, it started with Luna and we've seen a few other ones. If you remember that, I'm sorry, because there was a bad time back then. I remember that day when what was it? UST was it called? UST?
Yeah, UST. Right.
UST. When UST depegged and everyone was like, okay, this is it. And it was it. there was a death sentence for a few days for crypto. But yeah, algorithmic stablecoins are actually excluded from that act, for example. Like this basically says that if you don't have full backing, right? If you don't if you're not an issuer that has reserves in safe assets, for example, in cash or treasuries, or, so if you're not like the classical USDC, then you don't have permission to act, especially at least not on US ground and in US apps and for US consumers. So the whole idea is to protect consumers from shady reserves. But while this is very good, I think, and I also think that this will potentially bring in a lot of, probably trillions in on-chain liquidity, because it just makes it opens the doors for players that are not yet on Solana, right, with their liquidity. So it could bring TVL, and what brings TVL brings activity on chain, and what brings activity on chain makes money for the blockchain, and if the blockchain makes money, Sol goes up. So I think it could be a bullish catalyst. The only thing I'm a bit concerned about, but that's more the cypherpunk in me, is that it's not so great for DeFi, I guess. Does it make sense? Like, it's not so... too much. It will bring the serious players closer to Solana, and the more experimental DeFi ideas, they will get kicked out because it will stifle innovation to an extent. If that makes sense. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I'm really curious to see the actual details of the bill, which I did not have time to read. But let's get a general sense of how some people are feeling. We definitely have people on both sides of the aisle, and so we have a very beautiful video from the Chief Investment Officer of Bitwise, which is of course the company that issues BSOL, which is the biggest Solana ETF. So let's hear it from the CIO of Bitwise.
I think Clarity is like the Puxatawny Phil of crypto of this winter. I think if Clarity doesn't pass, it's going to push us into a deeper, it's going to be hard for crypto to rally. I think if you do see it pass, that's probably something like the all clear signal on this pullback. And we could see, I think most assets, and particularly ETH and Solana and others, move to all-time highs.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's quite interesting. We have someone who's in the know and is definitely if you call him anything, he's an institutional player who's rallying for the Clarity bill. Coinbase also used to be on side for the Clarity bill, and even people on X are saying things like decision day on the Clarity Act this Thursday, important day for crypto. Tell me all the reasons why this can pump the market. So obviously, there are people who are bullish on this, as Simon rightfully pointed out. But of course, we have people on the other side who are echoing exactly Simon's concern about what this means for DeFi. Mr. Smock says, the Clarity Act is a Trojan horse. Banks are lobbying Congress to require devs to KYC DeFi front ends. And they're pushing for an only accredited custody services like Coinbase, which can hold crypto, so no more private wallets. The Republicans lied. They are not pro-crypto. So that is another legitimate concern that we have, is that within this bill, the CFTC is going to get a lot more teeth to enforce the rules that they want to see and list the assets and approve the protocols that they want. And in that process, we might have just killed the cypherpunk in Solana, especially as it pertains to DeFi experimentation, because whatever the Americans want kind of tends to be where the rest of the world goes, because that's where the money is. So I'm a little concerned as well, actually. I'm actually more concerned than I am bullish about the Clarity Act.
Yeah, I think short-term price action will be good. Right now, I think also the chances that it will pass in 2026 at least are higher than 50%. So that is probably already being priced in to an extent now as well. It has been already priced in. I think the Clarity Act was something they've been bringing this up since 2-3 years by now. So it's not like a new thing, but it's just right now it's the furthest it ever got in the whole process of being approved, right? So I think on Polymarket right now you see bets going the 70%. Yeah, that's okay. That's Kalchi before May 1st, for example. So, pretty high chances that this thing is gonna go through. There's a side of me definitely that's a bit afraid and that's a bit scared that this could change our whole crypto as we know it. Like over the course of like 1-2 years. It's not going to be approved, but over the course of 1-2 years, it could kind of wash out more of the DeFi plays, more of the interesting things that we're so bullish about, and it would bring institutions and regulated services and more apps that just feel not. It's okay if you feel TradFi, because that's probably not a bad thing user experience wise, but if you take away the permissionless nature, the sovereign nature of crypto, a few of the big pros that we have while we're doing this, then it becomes a bit risky, right? But I guess what they can't take is the financial Lego blocks that DeFi enables, which is still a nice feature. Like that's gonna at least we're gonna make the worst thing that can happen, I think, is that we're going to make financial markets just a shitload more efficient and quicker, right? You can move money from left to right much quicker. You pay less fees. Everything is fast and cheap. Literally what Solana is all about, and easily fragmented across different kind of yield sources and so on. So I think that's going to maintain the same Clarity Act, yes or no, which is good. But more the cypherpunk value sets that they are probably at risk with this whole thing. And yeah, I have if you have a take on this, let me know. But I have I read another take on Twitter that I think is really interesting when it comes to stablecoins. Have you heard about this? The Venezuelan tether and what happened to it?
No. Are you talking about the freeze with Tron?
Yeah, you can guess it. Like it's there was obviously a lot of tether that was used by Maduro for the oil, and it was settled on Tron. And then at least I read a tweet. I didn't fact check it, but it says the US made a phone call, Tether froze the wallets. Probably it's a longer story, but that's essentially what happened. So the money, is frozen. And this basically says that, okay, USDT, especially here is the target, but broader stablecoins in general, the ones that we have right now, they are definitely better than what we have so far because they're fast and quick and they can go across the borders and so on. That's great. That's a good value proposition. But they are not sovereign. They're useful, but they're not sovereign, right? They can be frozen at any given moment. You can just, they can be taken away from you. Not like the crypto that we envisioned. So that's kind of a little concern, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's nothing to do with the Clarity Act, though. The USDT and the Tether organization has actually worked in concert with the American authorities time and time again. In fact, I've been fact-checked by Cash multiple times. Apparently, I don't know if this is still true, but what he told me last year was that Tether actually does a better job of cooperating with the American authorities than Circle does. With USDC. So Tether is, even though people like to think of it as like the crime stablecoin, they are willing to freeze millions and millions of dollars upon the request of the American authorities, as long as the request is, they deem reasonable. Whereas Coinbase seems to, at least in the past, has been a little bit more protective of USDC holders. So
I guess,
I mean,
and it's not a bad thing per se. It just basically feels like a bank again, like the whole the system where people just it's not your money really if someone can freeze it, right? It's not your wealth, right? And here's a bull case for other cryptos. That means that what do you think other big nations that are trying to maintain sovereignty over their oil money will do? I don't think they're going to keep their money in stables now. If they observe this happening in real unfolding, I think they're going to buy Bitcoin. Just like bluntly predicting to this. Like I just think there's going to be a lot of people buying shitload of Bitcoin now because you can't freeze Bitcoin wallets.
Yeah, yeah. That's a pretty decent prediction. I'm not entirely sure what people will do, but that seems like a very plausible outcome. That people decide to protect their ill-gotten, well-gotten, rightfully gained oil money. I'm not quite so sure what to call that. But Simon, we're going to close out, of course, with sponsor news. We have the wonderful Solflare, SNS, and Flashtrade to thank for allowing us to do this podcast. Without their support, it would not be possible. So, of course, we're going to start with our first sponsor, Solflare, right? They have 24/7 real human support. Getting help should not be a puzzle, and you shouldn't have to fight with a chatbot. I think that's great. You want to get a response from a real human in 30 seconds. What's that Paul Graham quote? Do things that don't scale.
Well, I don't know if that's a great quote for a huge company like Solflare. I think they should do things that scale, but I'm pretty sure they have a very effective and efficient team on the ground somewhere. I actually tested it a few times and it works really well. You can go on solflare.com. You can hit a little chat box. You literally get help in like a minute, I think. Any time of the day, like wherever I am. So that's really cool. And it's really a human that talks to you.
Yeah, no, that's actually really, really nice. Solflare again is if you look at all the small details of how they run their company, they're running more like a traditional fintech than they are a Web3 startup. And for my wallet, honestly, that's what I want. I want something that feels uber professional. And yes, of course, I want to talk to a real human. But it's not just Solflare that has interesting news. SNS also has released a new feature, which is to, find your search domain with AI. Do you know anything about this feature, Simon? This is quite interesting.
Yeah, I already saw that the other day. I touched on it briefly on Thursday. And yeah, basically just like AI enhanced domain search, and yeah, it makes it easier to find your domain. We already see it on other domain providers, by the way, like Web2. They already have this AI stuff going on. So yeah, you can browse for your domains much easier. But I think we're going to have some bigger things to talk about as well for SNS in the next 2-3 weeks. Huge things, if I want to say so.
Yeah, huge. But there's also a game, Simon. So they have this AI search game. They're putting up 500 USDC in, $500 worth of SNS. And essentially, they want you to find the prompt that generates nameforge.sol. And if you could successfully figure out a prompt that generates that domain, then you will win a share of $500 USD worth of SNS.
Interesting. And I guess you can't use the word nameforge for the.
I mean, I guess you can.
All right, then. Challenge accepted. We should try it out. Yeah, give it a try, guys.
And last but not least, Flash Trade is going to be using ephemeral rollups to enable 200 assets on Flash Trade. I honestly already thought that they had more than 200 assets on Flash Trade because they're onboarding new assets all the time. But now, obviously, they're doubling the amount of assets with zero gas, zero transaction fees, and zero account fees.
That's crazy, by the way. That is like huge. It's actually, I think it's actually happening. We've been talking about this whole margin engine V2 in the Flash Trade Discord and everywhere since like half a year. And I think it's actually happening soon. Like it's insane, honestly, to have 200 assets trading on a perp DEX on Solana. And I think they're going to be super quick in listing shit. So like whenever there's a token that is, gaining attention, they can just bring it on Flash Trade. You can trade it on perps, on leverage. So that's pretty crazy. And it will also make the LPing more efficient, because essentially how it works is basically that you can tap in every liquidity pool, or basically it's a shared liquidity pool for all assets. That's the big change that we're seeing, and that is making this possible. So yeah, stay tuned for when it's going to be live. I think I would give it a few weeks, but I don't think it's going to be too long anymore.
Yeah.
Big news.
Okay. Well, that's it for our weekly roundup of the latest and greatest on Solana. Thank you very much for tuning in. Simon, tell the people what they got to know.
You got to know that you find us on YouTube and on X, on Instagram, and actually on Twitter, on fucking TikTok as well, at Sol Brothers Pod. So check it out, give us a follow, especially on YouTube, so that we can grow the audience and ship better content in 2026. And we have some very interesting content ideas coming up for this year. So give us a subscribe and like the video as well. And thanks for watching the Sol Brothers. And we'll see you next time, where it's time for the next latest and greatest on Solana. See you then.